Good evening. My name is Priscilla Lundeen. I'm the chair of the New York City Bar's Lawyer Assistance Program Committee. Our committee is hosting tonight's event. It's a celebration of service to the Lawyer Assistance Program, which is known as LAP. LAP helps lawyers, judges, law students, and their family members in New York City and Westchester County who help with mental health and substance use disorders. And this in turn helps the health of our community and also the public. The mission of the LAP committee is just what it sounds like. It's to support LAP. Some members of our committee do this by becoming LAP volunteers. One of our volunteers you'll be hearing from later is Kathy Kettles. The committee also helps LAP by getting the word out about LAP services and by raising money for LAP. And tonight, we hope to do both. In the Zoom, during the first 5 minutes of the program, you saw some slides with information about LAP, including that its services are free and confidential. And the confidentiality part, the slides talked about the cornerstone, that is a confidentiality protected by statute, and it's extremely important. You also saw at the beginning the terrific invitation to the celebration, and that was a collaborative effort by City Bar staff led by Martha Harris, Senior Director of Programs and Committee Engagement. Martha, I know you're listening because you liked this program on LinkedIn today. Our profound thanks. The invitation also shows that tonight we're celebrating Sheila Boston, David Levine, and Joe Milowic III for their outstanding service to LAP. Their well-deserved awards will be virtually presented by Eileen Travis, LAP's outstanding, compassionate, and dedicated executive director. And every time I question, like, why am I doing this? I didn't sign up for this. I think Eileen, and I'm motivated. So Eileen is the person who's the glue, who's holding everything together. Eileen is also a leader in the lawyer assistance field, and we're very lucky to have her. Our celebration invitation also shows that our keynote speaker tonight is Brian Cuban. Brian is a Dallas-based attorney, a best-selling author, and a nationally known advocate for addiction recovery. I asked him earlier if it was okay I said he was a Mavericks fan, and he said it was okay. And we're thrilled, Brian, that you're joining us. Before we get started, I have a few thank yous on behalf of the Lawyer Assistance Program Committee. First, I want to thank Brett Parker, Executive Director of the City Bar Association. Brett, we so much appreciate your supporting LAP. Second, I want to thank the City Bar Fund Board, Carol Villegas, who's the chair. LAP is one of the 4 programs of the City Bar Fund, which is the City Bar's charitable arm. And a very special thanks to those of you who have already contributed to LAP prior to arriving, walking in the door at our virtual celebration. And thank you, all donors. And here, I want to acknowledge the support of Arnold and Porter. We're so grateful. I am reading a little bit. Okay. To those of you who haven't donated to LAP yet, after hearing tonight's powerful program, we really hope you'll be moved to do so. We really hope that you'll ask yourself about hearing some of the stories and also what LAP does. What can I do to make a difference? And what you can do to make a difference is you can donate to LAP, and there will be a link up in the chat to do that later. And we certainly hope that you do, because your donations really can make a real difference. With more donations, LAP can do more. Right now, the staff of LAP is Eileen Travis, who you will be hearing from, our clinical director, Michelle Cuevas, and also LAP volunteers. And they are doing all they can do. They're actually doing more than anyone could possibly do, but they're doing it. And but in order to provide some specialized service that there's been a demand for in the legal community and also by law students, they need more money to hire more staff. And two examples of what additional services could be provided with your donations. One is a group for lawyers and law students with ADHD. People have been asking for that for a while. Can't do that without additional staff. And the second thing is dedicated help for members of the legal community and their family members who struggle with trauma, with vicarious trauma and PTSD. So your donations will make a tremendous difference. Our first speaker tonight is Charles Mcfaul. Charles is an integral member of our committee. As an aside, back in the day, I appeared before Charles when he was the chief judge of the oath of the administrative Office of Administrative Judges, and I kept calling him judge for like about the first year I was on the committee, and he was on the committee. So thank you, Charles, for tolerating me. Charles is going to be sharing the story of how our committee and LAP got started. Before I share my side of the screen, give it over to Charles, I also want to acknowledge at this time the contribution to LAP that was made by Michael Cooper. Michael Cooper was the 58th president of the City Bar, and he passed away in November 2020. As Charles and later Kathleen Kettles will tell you, Michael Cooper made the dream of having a lawyer assistance program a reality. And so we're very grateful to him and acknowledge his memory. Charles?
Well, thank you very much, Priscilla, and good evening to everyone. I'm here to provide a brief history of the background of the Lawyer Assistance Program. And you should know that this is the 23rd year that the City Bar's Lawyer Assistance Program has been responding to the lawyers seeking to recover from alcohol and drug use, mental health disorders, and other issues impacting their well-being. However, the Lawyer Assistance Committee's history predates LAP. The City Bar established a special committee on lawyer alcoholism in 1982. Those members of the special committee who were in recovery often volunteered to help other lawyers seeking to overcome alcohol and drug dependencies by sharing their experience, strength, and hope. In time, the name of the committee was changed to encompass substance use, and it became a standing committee of the association. As the number of lawyers seeking help continued to grow, the committee sought to obtain funding to hire a specialist to conduct initial evaluations and offer treatment referrals. The search for funding explored both public and private sources, but ultimately the City Bar Association's executive committee, headed by then President Michael A. Cooper, committed funding to establish the Lawyer Assistance Program in January 1999. The Bar Association recognized that providing free and confidential assistance to impaired lawyers would preserve the integrity of the profession and protect the public. After an extensive search spearheaded by Kathleen Kettles, who was then the committee's chair, the Bar Association hired Eileen Travis, a licensed clinical social worker, as LAP's executive director on May 3rd, 1999. Kathy will be speaking to you a little later in the program. In 2001, New York's Chief Judge Judith S. Kay recognized the importance of providing specialized individuals to address the urgent and often complex needs of lawyers seeking assistance by establishing the Lawyer Assistance Trust under the auspices of the Unified Court System. The trust provided state-funded grants to support local lawyer assistance programs, including the City Bar's LAP. After the trust funding ended in 2011, LAP continues to receive funding from the City Bar Fund, the City Bar's charitable arm. It is now my pleasure to introduce Eileen Travis, the Executive Director of LAP since its inception. Eileen?
Thank you, Charles, and thank you, Priscilla, and welcome to all of you. We're really happy that you can join us tonight for this really special evening. In the recovery community, there is a phrase that's used very often, and that phrase is a power of example. An individual who is a power of example is someone that not only does good works, but brings out the best in people. And tonight, we're going to be acknowledging several powers of example. First, the first powers of example are our LAP committee members and our volunteers, who I think are the backbone of the Lawyers Assistance Program. There is no way that I and our clinical coordinator, Michelle, could do what we do without our committee members and LAP volunteers, without their commitment and their help and support. So thank you to each one of you. A very special thanks to our committee chair, Priscilla, who you've met, for your leadership and certainly for spearheading tonight's event. Next, our clinical coordinator, Michelle Cuevas, who joined us just a little under a year and has brought so much to the program with her vast knowledge, creativity, and especially her tremendous capacity for compassion for our clients, many of whom have multiple struggles. And last but not least, a pair of example describes each of our honorees, all of whom represent our mission to support the mental health and well-being of the legal profession. So our first honoree tonight, who's receiving the LAP Leadership Award, is Sheila Boston. Sheila is a partner at Arnold & Porter and president at this moment of the New York City Bar Association. We want to thank Sheila for her commitment to educate the legal community by raising awareness about mental health and well-being and in the profession and supporting the work of the Lawyers Assistance Program. So the plaque that we gave to Sheila says, do we have a picture of you with the plaque? We do? Okay.
Kevin should have it.
Okay.
Hope he's able to show it. That's me in the president's office at the City Bar.
Wonderful. So the plaque reads, heartfelt appreciation and gratitude for your leadership by example, by designating mental health and well-being as one of the 6 pillars of your Bar of Hope, by deeply caring about the emotional, physical, and spiritual health of our legal community during the pandemic, and it doesn't say this, but certainly beyond, and by supporting the Lawyers Assistance Program. Sheila, it's been a true joy working with you.
Oh, thank you. This is so very special. I do want to thank you, Eileen, because you are the best for sure. I want to congratulate my other honorees, but good evening. I bid you the warmest of greetings from the New York City Bar Association. I am the City Bar's 69th president, and unbelievably, my tenure as such will actually end tomorrow evening. I still can't believe how 2 years have just really flown by. Let me first say, as has been my custom throughout my tenure, that I hope that every single one of you under the sound of my voice is healthy and well in mind, body, and spirit, because without good health, mentally and physically, you can't be your best you or the best version of yourself as an attorney and as a human being. The last 2 years have been exceptionally challenging, particularly because of the pandemic. And of course, we're not fully out of the woods yet, but we are steadily and surely finding our way, trying to embrace a new normal in our professional lives. And that has been, and even continues to be, a little stressful. And that's why I've done my utmost best to try to encourage the City Bar community to be a bar of hope. That is a beacon and light amidst the darkness. In this quest, I have asked the City Bar community to join me in focusing in on 6 areas of concentration, one of which is mental health and wellness. And over the past 2 years, I have consistently been sharing with all of you and others about the importance of paying particular attention to and being vigilant about taking good care of our mental health and wellness. It's been one of the 6 central pillars of the Bar of Hope, and I've tried my best to share that public service announcement, if you will, each and every time I've given a speech as the president of our illustrious institution. I'm truly thankful that I had the best lawyer assistance program in the world with which to partner on these issues during these precarious times. I'm of course referring to the New York City Bar Association's Lawyer Assistance Program, led by the one and only Executive Director, Eileen Travis. Eileen, please know there is no way I could have contributed to and impacted this important wellness project for the New York City legal community and beyond over the past 2 years without you and your dedicated leadership to the cause. You, the LAP staff, the LAP committee, now led by Priscilla Lundeen, and I must give a shout out also to the Mindfulness and Wellbeing in the Law Committee, now chaired by Lisa Podemski. It has truly been a family affair, and we all know that teamwork makes the dream work. I thank all of you for the full court press and raising awareness and educating our profession that mental health impacts our competence as professionals and thus must be taken seriously. I think all of us know education is key, and lest we pat ourselves on the back too much and think that we can now rest on our laurels, let me be very clear with you that the legal field has had and continues to have high rates of substance abuse and mental illness. Here are some statistics really quickly that I find quite alarming. You know, there's research by the ABA, American Bar Association, which indicates lawyers are the most depressed of 105 surveyed professions. There's a 2020 study featuring participants from the California Lawyers Association and the DC Bar finding, quote, roughly half of practicing attorneys are experiencing symptoms of depression and anxiety, with approximately 30% of those falling in the mild range and nearly 20% of them in the moderate to severe range, unquote. And after cancer and heart disease, suicide is the third most common cause of death. And according to the National Institute of Mental Health, lawyers are nearly 5 times more likely than the general population to die by suicide. So I'm just saying this because this is no joke. It is literally a matter of life and death. And we have so much more work to do. But tonight, of course, is about celebration. So I do want to emphasize how very proud I am of the work done by the Bar of Hope. For we have prompted open conversations about mental health so lawyers can feel comfortable with asking for time off or other accommodations to deal with mental health issues. We have encouraged employers in the law industry to take this opportunity to change the culture of firms or companies such that mental health and wellness is better embraced by all and considered a core value of great importance and not a stigma. We have led the way in helping our profession to demonstrate more vulnerability and compassion in the workplace. We've better equipped the New York City legal community with practical tips and ways to enhance mental health, whether it was through our CLEs or the City Bar's Wellbeing Toolkit for lawyers located on our website. And we have developed a continuing legal education proposal asking that there be a requirement for every lawyer in New York State to receive 1 hour of mental health, substance abuse, and well-being education during each attorney registration period. Now hear me, that's not to add more CLE hours, so don't groan, but to designate some of the already required CLE hours to this important topic. So I can unequivocally say that we have indeed made a difference, the New York City Bar Association, and our reach has extended beyond the walls of New York City, I hope you know. In fact, one of the greatest privileges I've had over the past 2 years was participating on a panel sponsored by the Union Internationale des Avocats, meaning the International Association of Lawyers. And we discussed mental health and wellness. On the panel were representatives of the bar associations of Mexico, Germany, India, and Italy. And I am proud to report to all of you, the City Bar was the obvious leader of the pack in terms of its work on mental health and wellness. And it's because we are just truly blessed to have the Lawyer Assistance Program, the Lawyer Assistance Program Committee, and the Mindfulness and Wellbeing in the Law Committee to promote our members' quality of life so we can be about the business of practicing law and providing our clients with excellent legal services. So in closing, I just want to congratulate my fellow honorees, and let me just say this. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Lawyer Assistance Program, the professional staff and committee, and especially Eileen and Priscilla for this amazing honor. And more importantly, I want to thank all of you, what did she call it? The powers of example. All of you who are a part of this endeavor for what you do to enhance and save lives, for it is indeed priceless. Thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you so much, Sheila. I just want to mention to the group that as a result of your attending that meeting, that international meeting, the Luxembourg Bar Association now has a lawyer's assistance program. I'm sure there are others, but I happen to work with Luxembourg to help establish their program.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
It's a great honor. Our next honoree receiving the LAP Champion Award is David Levine. David is the Chief Legal Officer at Bloomberg LP and former chair of the City Bar Fund's Board of Directors, the nonprofit arm of the Bar Association. During his term as chair, I believe David gained a deeper understanding of the work of the Lawyers Assistance Program and quietly and very humbly found a way to support our mission. So David, do you have your plaque handy or should I just read I'll just read what's on it.
I do have it handy. Sorry, I wasn't photographed with it earlier, but here.
That's terrific. Okay.
Nice.
David's plaque reads, with heartfelt appreciation and gratitude for championing the Lawyers Assistance Program by making a positive impact on the health and well-being of our legal community through your generous support, your active involvement, your vision, and your kindness and humanity. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you so much, Eileen, Priscilla, the LAP team, our committee members and volunteers, and really all of City Bar. I want to congratulate Sheila and Joe and all of our colleagues here tonight who make a difference each and every day in improving the health and well-being of attorneys. This is a space where I definitely feel like I can and should do more, both within my own company and department and more broadly, and really like to thank each of you for your amazing leadership and example that you set for the rest of us. I will come back to Sheila again at the end, sorry, just for a second. My journey with City Bar really started in earnest only 5 or 6 years ago through the Justice Center and has evolved through different roles. While I appreciate everything we do at City Bar in terms of advocacy, what has impacted me the most is how we support members of the profession and improve the lives of individuals in our communities in need. My personal involvement in various City Bar programs has changed my life. I am a better person, a more understanding and tolerant person, because I have a better understanding of the challenges that so many of us face. I want to thank the amazing staff of City Bar and our incredible executive director, Brett Parker, for nurturing my interest and always ever so politely pushing me to do more. And he was successful in that endeavor on many occasions. All of the good that we do as a profession is not possible, as Sheila alluded to, unless we are healthy. The last few years have taught us all a lot more about the importance of health, and in particular, the importance of mental health. Nothing else is possible unless we have it. And there are many challenges and stresses that are specific to, or at least magnified by our profession. And the statistics that Sheila cited earlier don't lie. There's a very real and significant problem in our profession. Through a series of personal and professional challenges over the past few years, I've learned firsthand of the importance of having support, of being able to admit that sometimes things aren't right, and the importance of getting help and having wonderful colleagues, family, and friends, as I truly do. Our colleagues who through LAP assist countless lawyers address addiction and mental health challenges are not only improving individual lives, they are making sure we as a profession are able to do the work that we must do, not only to support our clients every day, but to support a just society. One is not possible without the other. And we really, all of us need to do more to support LAP. I did want to spend a minute before I finish, focusing again on Sheila for a minute, because I've had the privilege of serving with her over the course of the past few years. And as Sheila knows, and many on this call, I have spoken at the same event a number of times, regrettably with Sheila, but regrettably after Sheila has spoken and inspired us all. And then I will come on and try to always raise my game just a little. And Sheila may not know this, but she was, well, she knows she was honored by Legal Services NYC in 2019. I was the 2020 honoree, and the honor was postponed due to the pandemic. As a part of the process, LSNYC collects quotes from people you've worked with. And I remember collecting my quotes, and then I asked LSNYC for the prior year's book. And I saw the various adjectives that were used to describe Sheila, who was truly incredible. And at the time, I didn't know Sheila that well, but terms like singular and phenom. I went back and I looked at the quotes that I had, and our company's chairman wrote something to the effect of, "David is a nice boy." And I am proud of that. But really working with you, Sheila, over the course of the last few years has given me a true appreciation for what it means to be motivational and transformational. And I just want to say that you have inspired all of us to be better people. And what you have done together with our colleagues at City Bar the past 2 years through an enormously challenging period of time is nothing short of amazing. And I just want to say that through the biggest challenges and the lowest lows, your optimism and passion has carried many of us. And I know it hasn't been easy. So I just want to say thank you. And again, congratulations to our honorees. Thank you for having me tonight. And I look forward to participating for many years to come at improving our profession and tackling these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, David. Our next honoree receiving the LAP Volunteer Appreciation Award is Joseph Milowic III. Joe is a partner as well as the Wellbeing Director at Quinn Emanuel. And Joe to exemplifies what LAP volunteer is. When I call upon him for help, which I do quite frequently, whether it's to share his own personal story of struggle with depression, or to provide peer support or monitoring for one of our attorneys that's struggling, the majority of the time he replies, happy to help. Joe, do you have your plaque handy? Okay.
Here it is.
Oh, wonderful. So Joe's plaque says, with heartfelt appreciation and gratitude for your outstanding service as a volunteer for the Lawyer's Assistance Program and for sharing your personal struggle with depression without fear of stigma, so that those in the legal community who have suffered in silence will be encouraged by your experience to get help. Joe, I can't thank you enough. It's wonderful to have you on our team.
Thank you so much, Eileen. And thank you so much, everyone. I'll keep my comments brief and want to congratulate Sheila and David. And definitely tough acts to follow. But I think I want to spend just a few moments to reflect on Eileen Travis and the Lawyer's Assistance Program. And, you know, in 2018, when I sort of got involved in the movement, you know, I had written an article disclosing my experience with depression and received really overwhelming response from the legal community, a lot of compassion from everyone, you know, lawyers, colleagues, partners, clients. You know, it was a universally warm and compassionate response. And Eileen Travis was one of the first people to call me up, and she reached out and invited me to have a call with her and to talk about the work we could do together. She said, would you like, I don't know exactly the pitch, but it was basically come volunteer for the New York City Bar Association's Lawyer's Assistance Program. And for me, it was all new. It was all brand new. I had no idea of the work that she'd been doing since 1999, you know, when I was, you know, just graduating college, I believe. So, you know, Eileen is just the kindest person that you could ever meet. She's a licensed social worker who just spends every day serving, you know, people who are having tough times. And you know, she didn't go after the job that makes the most money. She went after a job that makes the most difference. And it's really beautiful. So in all of my interactions with Eileen, when I reach out for help on innumerable issues, you know, something comes up, someone has a mental health issue, has a unique issue, I contact Eileen. And with all the things she's doing, all the people she's serving, she always responds and helps me. And there's no charge. It's like she's just the kindest person. And like, in the law firm environment, we charge by the 0.1 hour at a rate of $1,500 or something crazy per hour. And I don't know, just it's kind of boggles the mind. But I've never really said how grateful I am to Eileen for everything, for always being there, introducing me to the work that you do and helping me to be involved in reaching people with a story of hope, and letting people know that while there's a lot of fear out there about disclosure, there's also a lot of compassion. There's a lot of love out there. And, I'd also like to, I know I don't have much time, but I also like to segue into Brian Cuban, who is going to be giving our keynote. And Brian serves on the board of the Lawyers Depression Project, which is the nonprofit that I helped found that came out of disclosing my experience with depression. And Brian is another one of these people who, 2018, it was all new to me. But if you look at Brian's record, he's been talking about mental health, body dysmorphia since 2013, wrote his book on dealing with depression and anxiety and substance use in the legal profession years before it was popular to talk about it. And so it's really people like this that have been pushing this movement, even when it was not like the thing to be talking about. So I tip my hat, and I want to express my gratitude for you guys. I want to express my gratitude to Priscilla as well for chairing the committee and for putting this program together. Priscilla is another person who was there when I woke up to all this service work. She was already there. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Joe. And I will keep calling on you. So congratulations to all of our honorees. Thank you so much. Sheila, thank you so much for your really encouraging speech. You're always there with such energy and optimism. It's tremendously helpful.
Thank you. And
now I'll turn it back to Priscilla.
Yes, thank you, everyone. I was so moved by all of everybody's remarks, and in the spirit of Sheila's generosity and embracing all the committees, I want to say that I've been so happy that the Lawyer Assistance Program Committee has been able to work this year very closely with the Mindfulness and Wellbeing Committee led by, chaired by Lisa Podemsky. We have all kinds of programs going on, and that's one of the beautiful things also about the Lawyer Assistance Program Committee, which it's different than most of the committees. There are 150 committees in the city bar which have different areas of focus. The Lawyer Assistance Program Committee really is concerned about all lawyers. And I know I can feel objections from like the Committee on the Profession saying, Council on Profession saying we do too, but I'm here. So it's been wonderful to collaborate with the programming, the exciting programming that the City Bar has. One example, this is a program in June that's coming up where Eileen is a panelist, and so is Francesca Acocella, that we're co-sponsoring with several committees. We are a co-sponsoring committee. It's the Committee on Immigration, and it's in June 9th, it's a program on vicarious trauma. And one of the panelists is Francesca Acocella, who's our committee secretary, who you won't see, but she's a key player. She's behind the scene, and she's going to be showing the donation chat, which is going to come later. So now I'd like to turn to Brian Cuban. And initially I had thought, when I approached Brian on LinkedIn, and I've already shared this with the group, I thought, wow, I'm really a great advocate and so persuasive, getting Brian Cuban to be our keynote speaker. And he did tell me, up front after he agreed, well, Joe, I'm on the advisory board of the Depression Project. So I felt a little bit deflated, but still very glad to have Brian. And speaking of Joe, Joe is on the committee. Joe is a fabulous committee member, and Eileen has brought most of the people who are on the committee, and we're growing, not necessarily by the day, but by the month, and we owe so much of that to Eileen. Well, Brian, one of my committee members gave me a hard time. He said, "Are you giving Brian Cuban a plaque?" And I said, "No." But I found something that I am going to read, and it's kind of like a plaque, even though it's not from the Lawyer Assistance Program Committee. Brian really gives back, as Joe has said. He is a graduate of the University of Pittsburgh Law School. And when he gave the commencement speech in 2021, I would like to read briefly what was said by the Dean Amy Wildermuth about him after showing a video after his commencement speech in 2021 about the importance of wellness in law school. So the dean said, quote, "Because you, Brian, have enabled Pitt Law to continue to provide students the tools necessary to cope with the stressors of rigorous study and coursework, along with healthy strategies for long-term success in the profession, we wanted to find a fitting way to honor you. So today, it is my great pleasure and honor to announce that we are officially renaming the Wellness Fund the Brian Cuban Wellness Fund." So Brian, it's wonderful, congratulations. And we're also privileged and honored to have you here with us and everybody out there to be our keynote. Thank you.
Thank you. And that really did come full circle, because I was such a mess when I walked out the doors of Pitt Law in 1986. I didn't even go to graduate, just mail it to me. And so I finally got to wear the cap and gown. And even down here in Texas, it's been a pleasure to work with the New York Bar, work with Joe. I've spoken at Joe's law firm, Quinn Emanuel. We talk regularly on the Lawyers Depression Project. I've worked with Eileen. I've done a podcast in the New York City bar offices. So it just shows you how the wellness community just comes together. And if there's anyone who needed the wellness community, as I went through the practice of law, it was me. And I want to show, as an example, I want to take you all back to June of 2006. The Dallas Mavericks are going to the NBA championship for the very first time, hopefully for the third time pretty soon. But this was the first time. And my brother Mark had bought the team in January of 2000. We had had some success going to the playoffs, but this was our first trip to the big show. And as you might imagine, I was going to get some pretty good seats for those games. I also had the opportunity to get 2 tickets for friends. I called up my brother, said, "Sure, Brad, come on over." He gave me the 2 tickets, went back to my house, got on my phone. Think I called my friend? Nah. Probably thinking I sold them on eBay for some astronomical amount, right? Thinking like a lawyer. I didn't do that either, because that would have been disrespectful to my brother, to the team, to myself. I took those 2 tickets and I traded them to my cocaine dealer for $1,000 in cocaine. Really celebrating my 20th year as a practicing lawyer. Selling them on eBay was disrespectful, but trading them to my cocaine dealer, perfectly acceptable. How the mind works in addiction. My dealer shows up at my house. I was high class, he delivered. He hands me the 2 tickets. I go running upstairs to my home office. I dumped all the cocaine out on my wooden desk, looking at it like I'm Scarface. If you've seen Scarface, wanting to go and have the little cocaine there on my nose. And of course I had to do some, but cocaine had long stopped giving me the feeling of confidence, self-love, and acceptance that I achieved when I had done it for the first time in a bathroom in Dallas, Texas in the summer of 1987, and instantly became psychologically dependent on the feeling of loving myself for the first time in my young life. So I line it out and I roll the dollar bill, and cocaine users were kind of an ironic bunch, especially in pandemic times. You wash your hands, you use a Purell, but we'll stick a dollar bill up our nose that's been used by God knows who, right? And has God knows what on it. But I was never going to see that high again, the first high, just pain and shame and paranoia. Do I hear the cops outside? Woo, woo, woo. I go peeking through my nailed shut curtains, literally nailed shut because I'm all paranoid. There's no one out there. I hide the cocaine. I drive to a home improvement store where I buy electrical faceplate outlets, a drill, and a saw. I book it back to my house. I go to the drywall in the closets upstairs with the drill and the saw, and I cut these rectangular fake electrical outlets. I take the cocaine, I put it in smaller Ziploc baggies, and I slap it behind all these fake electrical outlets. Take the drill, going bzz, 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 thinking I'm the smartest lawyer ever. Like the DEA, the cops, and the drug dogs have never thought of that one before. And of course, I did some more. And again, it was just pain and shame. And now the cops really are outside. They're not, but I'm paranoid again. About an hour later, I go back to those same electrical outlets. Bzz, 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 bzz. I take out all the cocaine. I go to my master bathroom and flush it down the toilet. Now it's about $900 worth. The next morning comes, I wake up. Did I do that? Wait. Nah, Brian, you didn't. I flushed all my cocaine down the toilet. There's another game tonight. Another call to my brother. Go back over, get 2 more tickets. Another call to my drug dealer. He shows up at my house. He said, dude, you did all that last night? I didn't want to tell him I flushed it down the toilet like an idiot. I said, yes, I did it all. Give me more. Okay, dude, here you go. Back up to my home office. Rinse, wash, repeat. Dump it out on the desk. Line it out. Pain and shame and chasing that high, chasing the dragon. And there was never an epiphany that maybe I had an issue. It was, maybe I need to change dealers. Maybe I need to switch out the Grey Goose for the Jack Daniels. And the paranoia again. I go back to those electrical outlets and I hide it all behind the electrical outlets again. Bzz, 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 bzz. Seal it all up. About 2 hours later this time, it took me a little longer for the paranoia to rise to boiling point. I go back to those same I go back, pull it back out again, go to that same bathroom the second night in a row, drop to my knees like I'd done so many times before, hoping or praying for someone or something to take away the pain of my addiction, and flushed it all down the toilet again. They say when Dallas flushes, it runs downhill to Houston. So I think some people in Houston had kind of more hops in their step those 2 nights. A hell of a way to celebrate my 20th year as a practicing lawyer. The quote unquote insanity of addiction, doing the same thing over and over the same way and expecting a different result. But we know it is not insane. It is a biological brain-based process that affects so many of us. Our profession, we know, whether it's alcohol or cocaine or whatever else other substance we're using, opiates, our family, our children, our colleagues, just so many. We lost over 100,000 people to fatal overdoses last year, and it's only going to get worse. And we know from the statistics that we heard earlier that for our profession, in terms of mental health, coming out of the pandemic, it has gotten worse. And it is going to be a challenge for those of us, people in recovery, those who may be on the line, and those struggling in many different ways to figure out how to reformulate that routine to get into some sense of normalcy. And for me, it wasn't just cocaine. By the time I was 18 years old, as a freshman at Penn State, I developed an eating disorder, bulimia. Yes, guys do get eating disorders. Up to 50% of all those with eating disorders are male. And we know from a law student wellness survey done a few years ago that up to 1/3 of all law students suffer from disordered eating. And guess what happens when you don't get treatment, whether it's alcohol or whatever the substance is, or eating disorders or depression? You just kick that can down the road right into the practice of law and become a lawyer with an eating disorder. And eating disorders, until the opioid epidemic, had the highest mortality rate of any psychological illness. By the time I was 21, as a freshman at Penn State, I was a full-blown alcoholic, getting drunk every night, going to class drunk, going to class hungover. By the time I was 26, I was addicted to cocaine. At 44, my first of 2 trips to a psychiatric hospital after a near suicide attempt. 3 failed marriages, 1 more, I get a free set of steak knives, all failing around drugs and alcohol, jail, getting arrested, DWI. And then finally, Easter weekend 2007, beginning my recovery journey. And I had 15 years, April 8th, 2007, of long-term recovery. In all of that time, and especially when I was going through these struggles as a young lawyer, as a baby lawyer, I knew nothing about lawyers' assistance programs. And they were in Texas, they were still in their infancy back then. In Texas, it was new, and this was 1986. They were new, and so when I got my DWI, I went to the partner of the firm I was working at. No one said anything about a lawyer's assistance program. He mentioned lawyer. He said, get a good lawyer. No one reached out to me. And so I really went through my struggles, kind of just learning as I went and learning the hard way with steps forwards and backwards. And in doing all that, I never really had the opportunity to, because no one reached out to me. No one said, here are some options, whether it was a 12-step program or the LAP. And it was always avoidance and uncomfortability, even in my own family, because people don't know. And what happens when we don't know? We kind of stay in our own little bubble of comfortability, right? It is much more comfortable to stay where we are than to take that uncomfortable step out and call the lawyer's assistance program to ask someone if they are okay. Because if you ask someone if they are okay, what do you have to risk? The response. You have to risk them saying, no, I'm not. And that is a lot. And to be able to burst through that bubble takes a lot. And it's something historically the legal profession has not been good at, but is getting better. And as I went from problem to problem, I just had no concept of what it was like to receive that help. Literally, in law school, I was an alcoholic, full blown. I walked through the doors of Pitt Law in 1983 as an alcoholic struggling with major depressive episodes. We didn't have a dean of students yet. Dean of students are a relatively new phenomenon in terms of law schools. So in those days, you go into law school and you're struggling with alcohol, you were either in a 12-step group, if you were lucky to help find someone that reached out to you, you were in a hospital ward, or you were not in recovery, trying to do it on your own. And to give you an example of what my 3 years of Pitt Law was like, I want to talk to you a little bit about my first year civil procedure class. I had been out all night partying, drinking. I show up, I didn't have my books. I smell, I'm sweating, and I'm still drunk. I sit in my assigned seats, and my two seatmates are looking at me because they can't go anywhere, right? They're assigned. I said, dude, just take the L, get out of here. And I'm trying to shrink in my seat, get as small as I can. Don't call me, don't call me, don't call me. Mr. Cuban, what do you think about this problem on the board, this jurisdictional problem? I think it was Pennoyer v. Neff. He scribble, 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 scribble. Well, professor, I don't have my books. I'm not ready. I'm still intoxicated. I'm shrinking further in my seat, getting small. Get small, Brian, get small. Okay, he's going to go on to someone else. Well, Mr. Cuban, when you say you're not ready, do you mean you're not ready for this example? What about this example? Scribble, 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 scribble. Professor, I'm not prepared. The Socratic method, right? Well, Mr. Cuban, when you say, and I uttered a expletive that began with F, and my voice projects, got up and ran out of the room. And that was my 3 years at Pitt Law as an alcoholic. I did make it through, but I graduated near the bottom of my class. No one ever reached out to me. I never reached out to anyone else. And I left the doors as an alcoholic. I moved to Dallas, Texas as an alcoholic. I was an alcoholic when I discovered cocaine in 1987, and Katie barred the door. The moment I discovered cocaine, and for the first time in my life, I looked in the mirror and loved myself for the very first time as a young man. And I had never known that experience of loving myself before. And so I had to love myself again and again and again. Give me more cocaine, give me more cocaine, give me more alcohol to balance it out, give me more alcohol to balance it out. Tough to practice law in an ethical way or practice at all. I know what you're wondering. Does he still have his license? Has he been disbarred? No, but it wasn't for a lack of trying. And I say that tongue in cheek, but we all know. We know how it is in the Texas Bar Journal, and I'm sure in the New York Bar Journal. You look in the back pages, and there they are. you know, the sanctions, the disciplines, the resignations, the disbarments, and there'll be a fairly high correlation to mental health issues of one form or another. And so I failed the Texas bar exam 3 times, all because of drugs and alcohol being more important to me. The first time I took the Texas bar exam, my study aids were 3.5 ounces of cocaine, a fifth of Jack Daniels, a liter of Tab, and bar review books I'd borrowed that weekend. Those were my study aids. That is how I defined my existence. Just surviving. Drugs. How can I not feel? What can I do to not feel? If I can't love myself, I will just not feel anything. And when I began my recovery journey, and I began looking around and seeing what my colleagues were going through, the colleagues I've lost to suicide, to addiction, to overdoses. And I looked at what I thought needed to be done. My first stop were the lawyers assistance programs. I got on the advisory board of KELAP, the Texas Lawyers Assistance Program. And in doing so, and in watching what they do and watching the struggles and being part of trying to find new ways to reach out to a community that is often distrustful of lawyers assistance programs. They said I can go a couple minutes over, so I'm gonna give you an example. One time I was speaking to the Dallas bar, and I was talking about lawyers assistance programs. And after the event, a seasoned trial lawyer comes up to me and he goes, "Brian, I know what you're saying. I'm talking about them being confidential. I know what you're saying, but if you go to the LAP, it's gonna get out. And they're gonna know, and you're done." Well, how do you know that? Well, another lawyer told me. Well, how did he know? Did he use it? No, I think another lawyer told him. So you're a seasoned trial lawyer coming to me with a guy told a guy who told a guy. And that is the stigma, right, around for some lawyers with lawyers assistance programs. But the support the LAPs need is so important. The work we do is so important because my facts may sound weird. Yeah, trading Dallas Mavericks tickets for cocaine. Yeah, those facts are a little weird. But the consistency of the struggle tends to be the same. Trying not to feel, impacting our work, impacting our families. And lawyers assistance programs struggle often, I know in Texas we do, for the funds to provide those services, for the funds to provide the counselors. So in closing, I just want to say, support your local lawyers assistance programs. They are often the first line of defense, the first call that is made, whether it's anonymously, whether it's, which is fine. In Texas, we can text. And it's not going to get out. It's not going to get out that you ratted your colleague out. It's not ratting. You're saving a life. You are saving a life potentially. And so support the program's ability to do that by helping them have the funding to continue. Thank you.
Brian, that was incredible. That was truly that. I'm just, that I don't know what to say except for we're so grateful that you were our keynote. We're so grateful that you took everyone listening to this program and those people who are going to hear it on a recording when that comes out on your journey. And we're also very grateful that you have recognized the importance of lawyer assistance programs, which unfortunately are often overlooked as a resource. And so on behalf of the committee and everyone else, I haven't answered any texts because I'm concentrating, but people have been texting me saying like, this program is incredible. Sheila Boston, David Levine, they're saying more than you're a nice boy. Joe, Eileen, and Brian, and it's but I'm seeing that, but I'm just trying to maintain my focus, which has been helped a little by meditating, perhaps being encouraged by Sheila to do that. Anyway, so thank you, Brian. Our next and last speaker before I come back on is Kathy Kettles. So Kathy is a superwoman She is also a super person that I've gotten to know this year. She is an official super lawyer. And when she's not being a lap volunteer, she is the partner and head of medical malpractice and drug liability litigation for the firm Wingate, Rossetti, Shapiro, Moses, and Halpern LLP. And Kathy is a trailblazer and pioneer in the lawyer assistance field. As an aside, I've done some research about the ABA Wellbeing Pledge, and one of the president of the ABA, when it started a couple of years ago, said that wellness is not a fad, it's a movement. Well, the fact is that the lawyer assistance program is actually, there is a lawyer assistance grassroots movement. Kathy was there, and Kathy made a lot of things happen, including making the lawyer, being the first chair of the lawyer assistance program, and also a real crowning achievement is hiring and training Eileen. So with that, Kathy, I want to turn the program over to you.
Did you unmute me? Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Kathleen Kettles. I'm a member of the Lawyers Assistance Committee, and I'm also a Lawyers Assistance Program volunteer. I've been in recovery from alcoholism for 43 years and a practicing lawyer for 35 of those years. At the 5-year mark of my recovery, I started law school. So some could doubt that I was actually in recovery, but off I went. And during my journey in law school, I actually started the same year as Brian. I came to the lawyers assistance movement in its infancy while working as a law clerk for Jack Keegan, one of the founders of the lawyers assistance movement in New York. I learned from those lawyers, and in those days, it was really primarily men. But I learned that how they provided help to their fellow attorneys to recover from alcoholism. I received help from other recovering attorneys in how to navigate my way through admission to the bar and support in establishing my career. I had to discuss a driving under the influence charge that I had gotten in California, and I was extremely anxious about it. But through their help and support, I got through the interview, and they were very understanding about the fact that I'd already been in recovery. Prior to law school, I'd been a nurse. And as a nurse, I had worked in alcohol detox and with Bowery residents with both tuberculosis, alcoholism, and drug addiction. It was an incredible experience for a young nurse, and I learned a lot about the disease of alcoholism. I also learned about its treatment and principles of outreach, which paved the way for my future influence on the Lawyers Assistance Committee and broadening of our mission to develop the LAP for the city bar. When I became the chair of the city bar, we realized on the committee that we needed a clinician who could provide a central focus for the committee's efforts and offer evaluation, referral, and coordinate outreach to law firms, law schools, and the judiciary. Fortunately, Michael Cooper, then starting his tenure as president of the Bar Association, he listened to me talk about lawyer alcoholism and drug abuse, and he agreed that it would become a focus of his presidency. Thus, in 1999, we hired Eileen Travis as executive director. She has done a tremendous job helping hundreds of lawyers, judges, law students, and their family members. I also have to say that Eileen has been, a support to me during my time in Lawyers Assistance and also as a friend over these many years. The Lawyers Assistance Committee, as opposed to the Lawyers Assistance Program, sponsors 2 self-help recovery meetings per week. In addition, LAP by Michelle Cuevas, who's also a lawyer and a social worker, provides a weekly lawyer support group for attorney mental health and well-being. Committee members also form the backbone as volunteers to monitor attorneys for the appellate divisions, both to prevent the loss of a lawyer's professional privileges and to help in restoring them. Almost all lawyers who enter the monitoring programs successfully return to the practice of law. In addition, LAP monitors bar applicants with mental health or substance issues who are seeking admission to the bar. The Lawyers Assistance Program and the Lawyers Assistance Committee not only addresses the needs of individuals, but spreads the word by speaking to other committees, bar associations, law firms, law schools, nonprofits, and the judiciary. This outreach is done consistently year to year to remind the bench, the bar, and law schools that what we do helps to maintain the integrity of the bar while helping our brothers and sisters to recover from treatable disorders. Today, there are over 117,000 lawyers in New York City and another 11,000 in Westchester County. The LAP is responsible to provide services not only for these attorneys, but also for 500 judges and law students in 9 different law schools. Sheila referred to it before, but and there was a study by the ABA and Hazelton Betty Ford in 2016, which surveyed over 13,000 lawyers. At that time, what they found, and it's something we really already knew, was that 25% of those surveyed, 21%, excuse me, qualified as problem drinkers, triple the rate for the general population. 28% struggled with depression, 19% had symptoms of anxiety, and 12.5% of those had a diagnosis of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. These issues have major consequences. Studies show that 25 to 30% of lawyers facing disciplinary charges suffer from some type of mental health or substance use disorder. We also know that these problems exist in law schools, ergo Brian's story, and that students remain reluctant to seek help due to the stigma and the fear of not being admitted to the bar. As has been widely discussed here tonight, and as we all know, substance abuse and mental health problems during the pandemic have substantially increased. This in turn has increased the demands on LAP, which is truly a lifeline for the community in need. The critical services which LAP provides depends on your generous support. We have answered the call to be our brothers and sisters keepers, and we ask for your continued generosity in serving this mission. Thank you so much. And
thank you so much, Kathy. That was wonderful and very compelling. We are reaching the end of our program, and shout out to Francesca for some slide sharing, if you're listening. Otherwise, I might have to think of people by memory.
Just 1 second.
Okay. It's a little behind the scenes there, but you know, it's if I thanked everyone at the beginning of the program, that's all the program would be. So that's why we have some thank you credits at the end. Thank you, Francesca. So there are lots of people who made this event possible. First and foremost, as you've heard, everybody just singing her praises, Eileen, Travis. Just you know, we're truly blessed to have her as the executive director. Michelle is also terrific. She's a relatively new, I think Eileen said just a year. She's just leads some support groups and has spoken to our committee and is a panelist on programs. And she's been great. Ready for the next thank you. City Bar. I will thank Martha Harris and Brett again. So helpful. And Cameron, Kevin, and by the way, we wouldn't be anywhere without Kevin because he's the AV person. And the fact that we have him is like because we have a celebrity all-star cast because other people want him all the time. And thank you, Kevin, also for letting us go a little overtime. Galena did a great job with all the links, and Eric designed the invitation and the slides. And I was contacting Eric so much that I was afraid he was going to block me. And I was starting this book, quoting this book, which actually I gave to Eileen. It's my husband's favorite book called Give a Mouse a Cookie. And saying like, I know I've asked for all this stuff, but could you please give me something else? And he has, so, you know, and thank everybody. And I'm ready for the next slide, Francesca. Okay. First, I want to thank our terrific chair, David Copeland. David is actually balancing another event, the Milton Handler Lecture, just 2 days from now. I don't know how he does it. And thank you, Francesca, our committee secretary. I'm going to skip down to the bottom. Ralph Wolf, past chair, thank you so much. And Susan Dennehy and Bob Klepp, who Susan and Bob chaired the virtual event in 2021, and they set a very high bar. And at this point, I just want to say a very special shout out, very meaningful to me, Yvette de la Cruz, Ed Kiernan, and Arissa Silver. They are, you've seen some of the senior folks on the committee, including myself. Yvette, Ed, and Arissa are all new to the committee. This is their first year. And we are so grateful to have them. They provided such energy, all these skill sets that some people, such as myself, don't have, and ideas and enthusiasm. So thank you guys. And I look forward to working with you again. And on that note, in closing, I would just say that, which is like a little thing I picked up from a Fountain House lectures, which I used to go to their luncheons. And actually that's where I first heard Brian Cuban, got my first autograph book from Brian Cuban. I'm waiting to meet him in person again to get my autographed copy of The Ambulance Chaser, which I have. And also I'm going to pre-order his third book when I find out it's coming out. But at any rate, what these Fountain House lunches always said, which I found compelling, so I'm going to appropriate here. They always said, as people were leaving, so as you all are leaving your virtual, leaving us here from the City Bar Association, I would just say, please mark your calendars. Mark your calendars, because next year it's going to be in person. We reserve the room. It's the reception area of the City Bar, May 15th, 2023. I look forward to seeing you all there, and please bring your friends and colleagues. Thank you all. Good night.
My audio. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure. I hope to meet all of you in person one day.
Good night.
Thanks, Brian. Love to meet you. Thank you, Priscilla. Great job.
Thank you.